We do everything: auto, home, life insurance, commercial insurance, small business, medium scale businesses, things like that. So pretty much anything insurance related, what we do. Bread and butter, typically we're working with homeowners. You know what I mean? People who have your typical assets, stuff like that, car and home and families, and that's it.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. So we're definitely going to talk a lot about business, where you are now, how you got there. All right, guys, we're back for another episode. Once again, Kendall Rays here of the Rays home team. We serve Southern New Hampshire and Northern Mass. Great friend of mine on the show today. I'm really, really excited about having him on here. Former college teammate. Now he's out in the world doing big things. My man, Eric Muchette, President and CEO of Asset Insurance Agency. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely,
it's a pleasure.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh man, so much to unpack, for us to talk about. But let's just give the people an idea of who you are, what you do.
So first and foremost, thanks for having me. So President and CEO, Asset Insurance Agency. We do everything.
I mean, when I think of insurance, I'm always like, all right, I just want to get the cheap insurance, whatever.
Of course,
I'm sure you get that all the time.
God,
Who says the biggest misconception? Is it the right coverage or is it the cheapest? Kind of talk us through that a little bit.
Now, it's funny you say that because you're in an industry that's pretty sexy. It is like it is. Like you go and you look at HGTV and you can watch it all day. Right?
Absolutely.
It's like, wow, they made that beautiful.
There's a whole channel dedicated to real estate.
There's no such thing as an insurance channel. No one would watch it. Be out of business in a day. So the biggest misconceptions, it's insurance is intangible, and I think that because of that, because you can't take it home with you, you don't put it on the wall, it's not on display, you lose a lot of the importance. And I think what happened, like 2010 and on, we had some companies come in, I won't say their names, but it became more from like a relationship with a person to just let me go online and get the cheapest price. Because that's what is embedded. That's the world we live in now, right? The world we live in is everything is social media, it's advertising, it's right. So it's like 15 minutes, 15% or less, right?
Yeah.
But what we forget is there's a reason why you have insurance.
Yes.
And so for that reason, your biggest, most prized possessions, typically, aside from, of course, your family, but even that has insurance at times, right? You have life insurance,
for sure.
That's what you're covering.
Yeah.
So it's you work your whole life, right? Sometimes you save up for years and years and years to buy your first home. You put everything into it. And then think about it, your most prized belongings. If maybe you're a female, you have these really nice pocketbooks.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a shoe collector. That ring, your watch, right? Where's it going? It's going inside what? Your house.
Yes.
Right. So what happens when a house catches on fire?
Yeah.
And you lose everything. Every picture you ever had from when you were a kid, your trophies, your child, everything, right? So I think that we really should put more emphasis on not making it so transactional, but that's the biggest misconception is let's save money versus how important is this asset to you? What are you willing to pay to cover it?
Exactly. And a lot of times people just don't understand. They're like, oh, I want it cheap. And they assume I have insurance, it covers everything.
Oh yeah.
But that's not
all the time.
And a lot of people they don't run into it until it's too late.
Of course.
Oh, I thought I was covered for this, but not in that. And how important is that, explaining to your clients what exactly they're getting in terms of, the products and services that you provide.
Very important. That's what I think makes us different.
Yeah.
Is the ability to build rapport, educate them on what they're having. Because like I said, the reality is you're most likely not going to ever have to use the insurance.
Yeah.
But then when you do, you had a great point. You're like, hey, I bought insurance. So you just assume because you bought insurance that everything is covered. But it doesn't work that way. I've got this piece of paper and somewhere in my email it says I bought this thing.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't purchase that add-on or this endorsement or that. So even though you pay for insurance, it doesn't mean you actually have everything insured. And I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions.
Yeah.
And the reality is, people think, oh, the insurance companies have all this money, right? The biggest misconception. They've got billions and billions of dollars. They're gonna help me.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it doesn't work that way. If you don't pay for something, right, you don't get it.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that, right? You go to a car dealership. If you didn't purchase navigation as an added feature in your car gets delivered. Guess what? It doesn't have it, right? You lost. Well, same thing here. I wish that people would understand that more, but that's our job. It's our job as the agent to educate people and say, hey, first thing we do, we're grabbing a copy of a policy. We're looking through it.
Yeah.
Did you know you didn't have water backup coverage? Kendall, I know you just did your basement over.
Yeah.
So what happens when water backs up in that whole,
Yeah.
everything you did, the floor, the toilet, that flat screen
Exactly.
TV, it's gone. You got to pay for that. That's extra.
100%. Yeah.
So.
So I mean, really taking the time to explain to your clients what they're getting into.
Yeah.
And really showing the the value for what you do. I mean, see it all the time in in my industry. Everybody, especially because of real estate, everybody
Yep.
knows something
Yeah.
about real
Oh, yeah.
estate, and mom, dad, uncle, brother.
Self-taught expert, YouTube.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
I saw this on, Zillow, whatever it may be, but it's just like, are you in the market, that specific market?
Right.
Are you in the business every day? Do you know exactly what's going on, what happened, and everything like that? And be able
Right.
to explain that's how that situation changes over time, and being current, with our clients, and keeping them up to date, really educating them.
Yeah.
Especially, a lot of people have a somewhat idea, which may be true, but to be able to point them in the right direction, to educate them, I would say is the biggest asset that you can provide. How'd you guys come up with asset insurance?
You know what's funny? That was probably when I started the business. What probably took the longest to form was the name.
Yeah.
Because I tried to think, okay, what's a household name that could stick, that I could grow with. When I built the business, I didn't think like, oh, let me be this one person guy and it'll be whatever, right?
Yeah.
A lot of companies might use their last name, and that's fine. I'm not knocking that. My last name's kind of long, complicated. Wouldn't really stick. When I thought of like SEO, search engine optimization, first letter of the alphabet, asset. What are you covering with insurance? It's an asset. After a while, it just stuck, and that's how we went with it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, that's exactly what people are covering. I mean, I think that's brilliant. So,
couple jingles we could figure out.
For sure. For sure. I mean, you guys are doing great. You have, you're constantly, we talk all the time how the team's growing and everything like that. Can you talk about how business is going for you guys and, where you guys are at?
We formed in 2017.
Yeah.
I was one person in the basement.
Let's go.
Doing everything.
Grinding.
Press 1, sales.
Yeah.
That's me. Press 2, customer service. That's me. Press 3 for claims. That's me. I might even change the tone of my voice a little bit. You think you're getting somebody else.
Yeah.
Organically grew from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change it for the world, because that's what taught me the business in and out from every single person's perspective, right? Like, I know what it's like to be a customer service person. I know what it feels like to be a salesperson, to work, do all that stuff. Then at the end of your day, still got to go out and network because you got to pay the bills. You got to be like, there's no such thing as a business with no customers.
100%. Lot of great ideas.
A lot of great ideas.
But you got to be able to market yourself.
Got to market yourself. So I'm tired. At the end of the day, I'm answering because you have to be accountable to your people. You're answering the phones, but then it's like, how do we keep a revolving door of clients in?
For sure.
And for me, it was sink or swim.
Yeah.
I started the business. We had our first baby on the way.
Yeah.
Right when I had left the company I was working for. So, and I didn't know, to be honest, anything about running a business.
Yeah.
Like I was a good salesperson. Being a salesperson and running a business, two totally different things. Entirely different things.
Absolutely.
And so, when I formed it, it was literally like, okay, you don't know this answer, but you better figure it out.
100%.
Because there's nobody there. Like there wasn't, one of the biggest things that I was used to doing when I worked for a really large corporation is 40,000 employees. There's a helpline, there's a manager, there's compliance, there's all this stuff.
There's some sort of resource for you to be able to figure something out. Yeah. You learned a lot in that process.
And I wouldn't change it. There's so much beauty in that. And I think even when we think about like success, right? When you think about success, it's always like want to get to the top.
100%.
And even I struggle with this myself, but looking back, there's so much beauty in the process of getting there.
Yeah.
And those ugly steps to me that were the hardest times, is the reasons why there's gray in my beard, the reasons why I probably aged 10 years faster than I should have, is the same reason why I feel so confident and why I feel like we excel past our peers in a lot of areas.
I mean, 100%. I mean, think about it. Like, you have to go through that to know how to navigate it. Because if you never went through certain situations, in your business, professionally, or even personally, if you don't go through certain things, it's hard to be an expert at something that you haven't gone through. Sure, there's a lot of people you can learn from and take from, but when you actually gone through it yourself, and really, you learn so much from that so quickly. Just a little side note, we talk about with our real estate coach, when it comes to like scripts and calling, I'm like, man, you just made that sound so good. He was like, I sold 2,000 homes and I've made calls over that. It's like, I've learned these scripts over experience, and trial and error and failure over and over again. That's why now I'm in the position to be able to where
coach,
it's just boom, it's automatic.
Because imagine going to your sales coach and you got a really complicated question you see all the time, and your sales coach is like, I don't Oh.
Yeah.
As long as you're going to be the same,
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, great, but like, how do you respect somebody that hasn't been in the trenches
Yeah,
with you?
you weren't in the trenches.
You can do it. You know, like one of my biggest pet peeves when I worked, like I said, for a large company is, you know, they were great managers, don't get me wrong. Personal level, I love them, but they didn't go through the same things we went through, but they were teaching us how to do things that they had never done.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, cool, I get it, but you know, you don't really relate to that. So I do really appreciate having to go through all that, as much as I hated it during the time, because it was tough.
Yeah, it's stressful.
You put yourself through that and you realize, like, man, there's not too much I can't do, right? Like, because I'm still, it's like, hey, you know, you got to figure out a way to get your gym routine in the morning. So it's 6 a.m. You got a baby on the way. At that time, our office was in Boston. It's really only 15 minutes north of Boston, but before COVID, that 15 minutes was like an hour and a half in the city, an hour and a half home.
You could basically be in Maine at that point.
At that point, right? So
what's the difference?
You know, when you can go through that and you're going through those 12-hour days every single day, sometimes not even taking a lunch break, you realize, like, man, there's really not too much I can't, like, if I'm pushed to the brink, there's really not too much I can't do. You really learn yourself in that process.
And honestly, that's what I always really admired about you. I've always seen you as a person who just perseveres, like always just figures it out, just like constantly always looking up to you. I'm like, man, I'm always like, I call this man by his last name, I call him Muchette, but I'm like, Muchette, like, what is he doing now? You're always, you just got that grind mentality. You're always, you know, I would say, trying to better yourself, better your position, better your company. And that's something that has always inspired me. I was like, yo, this man, you do it. He's setting the blueprint. Just, we trying to follow along. Back to your point, if it's humanly possible, there's a way to figure it out. That's super dope. You know, that grind. But so we were talking about, so you started in 2017. What was that point, you know, where you're like, I can do this on my own? Like, like, I got this.
Yeah. It was a string of events. Yeah. You know, it's funny because in my head, you were talking about the perseverance thing. First and foremost, I appreciate that, man. Like, I don't really do well with compliments, but at the same time,
you my guy.
It's funny because one of your questions talked about our upbringing, not to bounce too much around, but like that was my upbringing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're at some level, we're products of our environment. Yeah. Right. And then it's on us to choose whether or not we're gonna let that define us or be different. Yeah. Right. So, you know, for me, growing up in Lynn, it's a place where you could go down the wrong path relatively easy. Yep. But it's hard to go the right path and be different. Yeah. There's a podcast I recently started listening to. A buddy put me on with the Ed Milet show. Yeah. And one of the things he talks about is the hardest place to be in the world is middle class. The reason why that's so important, like when you come from poverty, it sucks. It's like, damn, I don't want to be poor anymore. Like, I'm tired of ramen noodles. I'm tired of no heat. I'm tired of it. You know, there's no hot water. I can't do this. Yeah. And when you're born into wealth, like real wealth, what comes with that is, of course, comfort, but connections. A lot of connections. It's almost impossible to fail. Yeah. When your father's given a $3 million endowment to Harvard and you're guaranteed in, it's hard to fail. Yeah. Right? When you come from middle class, lower middle class, you know what I mean? It's hard because you have somewhat of a level of comfort. Yeah. Right? You're not poor to the point where it hurts, but sometimes you don't always have that push, that environment around you to aspire to be the best. It seemed real though. You know, like for me growing up, I can't say I had that person that I looked up to in my neighborhood, in my community, my high school that like was doing all these things. Yeah. And it was like, you know, I could do that or I want that. It just didn't, it didn't exist. That didn't happen to me until college. You know, it's funny, I know you mentioned like, you know, UConn. Yes. A lot of people didn't know. I didn't come to UConn until my sophomore year. Yeah. So I actually went to college in Vermont, a military school in Vermont. I won't say the name.
That's funny. I've known you this whole time and I didn't
never
know
knew that, right? A lot of people don't know that. Talk about sink or swim. So I went to a military school in Vermont my first year. Yeah. Right. Like in high school, like I was always motivated, but I was like kind of a class clown. You know what I mean? Like education wasn't the priority for me. I took school seriously because I had strict parents, but at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like there were things that were more important to me than books, right? Pierre Garçon at El Pierre. Yeah. That was my teammate at the military school, right? And I knew almost right away that I had outgrown that school. Yeah. Because up in Lynn is like a fast city. It's relatively urban and, you know, whatever. You got Wendy's at 4 a.m. People are hanging out. I'm in high school. Like it's different, right? Yeah. I went to this small town in Northfield, Vermont, and like there's like one convenience store that closes at 9 p.m. They sell chicken wings, and that's the highlight highlight of your night.
Complete, like talking about like
Complete difference.
Yeah.
And to me, like, my parents were like, this is good for you. This is going to give you discipline. You need discipline.
Yeah.
So this is what you need, right?
Yep.
And I was like, yeah. But my first year there, man, I was so close to getting like expelled out the school and kicked. And not because I was like a bad kid, but I might have been too much on the outskirts of not like, I wasn't really Vermont fitting.
Yeah.
We'll say that, right?
Yeah.
So, it's funny. Going back into it, Pierre started looking at other schools, Pierre Garçon.
Yep.
And that's when I first realized, like, one, I wanted to play bigger football than what that was with D3 school.
Yep.
Knew I could. I'll be honest, I looked at Pierre and I said, man, this kid's not D3.
Yeah.
This kid's not a D3.
Pierre built different for
Pierre's
sure.
built different.
Yeah.
So he started getting letters from Notre Dame. I wasn't Notre Dame by any means either.
Yeah.
But I always had the tools growing up. Like I was 6'3", ran a 4.4s, benching like 330 in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't
Strong
have
ass.
I didn't have the I'll admit this now, I never admitted back in the day. I didn't have the hands. I didn't have the training. I didn't have the coaching to get there. So I started looking because it was either like I knew I was either gonna get kicked out of the school or it was gonna be, whatever. So started looking online at schools that were big schools.
Yeah.
UConn came to mind.
Let's go.
And I remember I was just sitting there on my desktop. It was like a Friday night, and I saw the new stadium they had built, and I was like, man, I want to play here.
Yeah.
Like it was like, you got a gut feeling. You're like, you envision yourself. Right?
I had that same feeling when I saw that stadium.
Like, this is home. Like this feels, you know what I mean?
I was looking at a couple other places. I saw that. Boom.
Right.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Right. So that was it, man. That was it. I looked at it. I applied to the school. I did everything I could to get into it. I got in touch with the coaches. I was like, listen, I want to play for you guys. Coach Sauce was the coach at the time. He gave me instructions on how to walk on. I walked on to the team. Again, speaking things into existence. I'm huge with manifestation. Huge in believing in that. That's how that came to fruition.
So you think it was you being in Vermont than, knowing that you could there's more in you. It was kind of making that decision to go to UConn. Is that really when that mindset shift started?
In a sense, yeah, I think so. What I think, to me, life is a culmination of experiences that you go through that help you to arrive at kind of like your destination. Yeah. That was definitely one of the triggering points. Yeah, that was like I was put in an environment that I knew was not the environment that was meant for me. And I could have succumbed to that environment like most, but I was like, no, my visions are bigger than that. I got to UConn and I started seeing like all these nice cars, and then I met some people. I remember, I won't say his name, really good friend of mine. Yep. One of the first people I met when I came to school at UConn. Back in the day, like ATM fees were a big deal. I don't know if it was ever a thing to you, right? Yeah, no. So I'm sitting in the food hall, and a buddy says to me, he's like, yeah, I got a great bank, man. He's like, they don't charge me any ATM fees. I'm like, it's huge. I'm like, I need to switch my bank. He's like, yeah, it's no big deal. He's like, what bank is it? Like, what do you have to do? He's like, it's not. He's like, you just got to keep 10,000 in your checking account. And I remember looked at him and I was like, what? Yeah, I mean, 10,000 in college might have been $10 million. That was $10 million to me. Like I had like $217 in my checking account because I got a grant from school, and like that had to last me the whole semester.
I stayed with like probably $150 to $200 in my account. That was like my safe spot. I'm like, all right, I'm good here. Like,
but you learn budgeting that way, right?
Oh, man.
Make that 150 last like a semester.
Oh man, I just make that money stretch so far. Now just between like all my subscriptions, that shit is out the window each month. Like on the I hear that.
So that build up, right? From like growing up in Lynn, going to military schools, realizing like that wasn't the fit for me. Then I come to UConn, big stadium, people with money. I'm seeing like there's a different side of the world and life that people live on a daily basis. And to me, that inspired that was huge. That was inspiring, but it still was like unfamiliar territory, right? Yeah. So then fast forward, now I'm on the football team. Yeah. Now I'm playing with some of the greatest guys in the country. You yourself, one of them, right? Yeah. Kendall Reyes, Darius Butler, Tyvon Branch, Donald Brown, right? And these guys, you know how the life goes. Like you got a 5-year NFL vet. You know what I mean? Life is different. Yeah. What you're exposed to is different. You know what I mean? You're getting flown maybe on a private jet out to Florida. Like, just your exposure. Yeah. Even now you're in the league. Fast forward.
Especially that class you were in. There was a lot of league guys in your class.
Probably arguably one of the best classes to come out of UConn.
Oh, 100%.
Right? I mean,
that was an NFL heavy class.
Bowl game. We tied West Virginia, right?
Absolutely.
And so that group of people was phenomenal. And then I'm looking at it and I'm saying like, wow. Now these guys are some of my best friends. Yeah. They're in the league. They're playing for the Patriots, the Jets, Arizona. I'm flying out to see them on weekends. Now, meanwhile, I'm working like my sales job at this Fortune 100 company doing my 9-to-5 gig thing. Yeah. But I'm looking at these guys' life and I'm like, man, Cody's got 5 cars and like 3 houses in like 3 different states. And I just saw this bill come out, and he just spent 10 grand on bottles. Like, what's going on? Like, you know, granted, I'm like 23 years old, so at 23, like, that's the world to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And so that exposure was like, all right, I didn't make it to the NFL. That wasn't my destiny. But I'm pretty good at this sales thing.
Yeah.
So this is my NFL. I'm gonna be the best there is at this, and you can't tell me anything. Like, this was my gift, and that's how I looked at it. And I ran with it.
And honestly, I feel that presence from you. You like, yeah, you guys played in the National Football League, but like you in the league for real when it comes to, you know, having your own business and like the mindset that you carry with you. Man, it's definitely incredible. And like I just, you know, just sitting here, man, I just hear the passion.
No, I appreciate
out,
that.
man.
No, I appreciate it. But it's like the NFL though, right? In a sense where like it's not constant, right? Like you get an injury, take you out the game.
Yeah.
It could take you out for a long time. It could take you out permanently. Same thing with what I do now, right? Like we went, you know, like I hired a bunch of salespeople. We were doing great. I was excited, super motivated for them to hit the ground running. That was January 2020. 3 months later, COVID hit. The world shut down.
Oh man.
I'm still a small business, but I've got these people on payroll, got these outside salespeople, and the whole world is shut down. How do I get an outside commercial sales rep to sell to businesses when every business is closed or shutting down, or now everything is a Zoom?
Yeah, that must have been, you know, quite the experience to go through, especially still, you know, relatively young and, you know, owning a business and growing, momentum's going the right direction. And, you know, I'm sure many other people also been in the situation, but like, you know, when it's, oh man, then it's like, boom.
I was only 3 years in.
Yeah, how do you deal with that? Yeah,
exactly. How do you deal with it? You just have to adjust. It's just life, right? Like you got even when the world feels like it's on fire around you, you got to just kind of compartmentalize and focus on what you can control. Control what you can control, and then is what it is, right? Like, and so that's kind of like how we took the approach. And you know, when COVID first came out, you know, we thought it was going to be over in like 3 months, 4 months. 2 years later, it took for that, you know, to kind of like correct itself.
Yeah, whatever this new normal we're in now.
We're in now, right? Yeah. So that was very difficult. For me and for a lot of people. You know, we saw Staples. You know, I know you're up in New Hampshire. I'm primarily based in Massachusetts, but like staple restaurants in Massachusetts that have been around forever out of business because of crazy. Like 20 years, and all of a sudden
it happens. But hey, man,
it happens.
You survived it. Company's growing. You're doing well. You're able to, you know, help out a lot of, you know, people in the local area. As for, you know, for now, you know, like I said, you're always someone that I know is always, you know, staying on top of their game and, you know, always, you know, trying to, you know, sharpen themselves and, you know, whatever that may be. On a previous episode, me and my wife Kristen, we talked about, you know, surrounding yourself, you know, with those people. I know back at UConn, you said you saw Cody and D-Bud doing this thing. So you're like, damn, I gotta
do that.
But now where you're at, you know, in your career, you know, what are, you know, who are some of the people you surround yourself with? Like, what type of mindsets do you get coaching, mentoring, kind of, you know, dive into that for me.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's everything. It's your network. Kind of like talking about my community that I grew up with as a kid. And nothing against that community made me who I am. But you're really kind of only as good as your peers at some level, right? Like if you're on an island by yourself, completely by yourself, castaway. And then one person comes on that island aside from you, and that person is derogatory, negative. There's no, they have no life skills. You're only going to get weaker. If you got, you know, a guy from Survivor that comes on that island, you're going to learn a lot of things that you probably didn't know before, right? And now you're taking on these new things that you never even thought existed. It's kind of like how I look at like my wolf pack, right? You're in my wolf pack, right? And you bring things to the table that I don't know. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that about you, because that's I need that. We all need that to survive, right? That is extremely important to me and in my business. It's like, you know, think about yourself as a realtor, right? When you go into a home, it's not just getting the key in the lockbox and opening the door. You know, your value comes when you know the interior component. Anybody can do that, right? But when you know like what the heating system looks like, you have resources for home inspectors. You can see there's an issue with the foundation. You don't need to be a builder, but maybe you've got some builders and you've looked at so many houses, you can tell, hey, this is going to be a problem in 2 to 3 years. You're 100%. Telling your home buyer that. Now you're not just a realtor, you're that trusted advisor.
100%.
So the same thing happens for me in my industry. Like people ask me questions about things that have absolutely nothing to do with insurance. Someone buys a car and they're asking me about their warranty. And it's not my job to know, but at the end of the day, when I do know a little something about a little something, I become that trusted resource, right? It's everything, you know, it's everything, keeping a good circle.